Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, your host here at Crimes Untold, and today we're going to be talking about the unidentified female that was finally identified. Her identification was made public this month, but she actually was identified back in March of this year. Today we're going to be talking about the case of Pam Wittman, or also known as Pamela K. Wittman. So she was found deceased back on November 5th of 1980. She actually disappeared in 1979 from Daytona Beach, Florida, and she was found in Daytona Beach. But like I mentioned, she was identified back in March by FHD Genetics. Yeah, which is a G4J or Genealogy for Justice Association. FHD Forensics, that's what it's called. And yeah, at the time of discovery on November 5th of 1980, the remains were partial skeletal, not recognizable, and it was deemed homicide. Cause of death was deemed due to the fact of multiple sharp, injuries or sharp force injuries. So this concluded that it could have been stabbing, could have been something like this. The description that was given is that they were unsure of race, but determined she could have been Hispanic, could have been African American, or could have been Caucasian. Age range was 15 to 24, height is 5'9", weight is unknown, hair color and eye color also unknown. The distinguishing marks that they did release, and this is all on the doenetwork.org, the link or the URL will be in the description box below. The identifiers that they gave were that she may have been doing repetitive activity because there was signs in her arms and shoulders of proof of doing repetitive motions. Her dentals were on file, and there was existence of metal fillings in specific teeth. They actually give specifics, lost fillings, things. It's all a whole bunch of dental. You'll see it if you end up copying the link down below and looking on the website. DNA was taken and put on file. There was clothing that was found with the remains. There was no jewelry, and there was other personal items also found as well. It was found that she had 27 cents in change on the remains, had a white handkerchief. The only thing they could deduce from her body size is that she wore a size 8 shoe, hence the green plastic shoes that were found with the body. The clothing was in very bad shape, and the waist measurement on the shorts that were on the remains, which is a pair of red shorts with blue trim, is that the waist measurement is 19 and a half and would stretch to 25 and a half inches. So that's what they had for a waist measurement. Also had a red t-shirt on as well. The people that found the body was the Florida Department of Transportation. They were working in the area, and this is when they found the remains in the wooded strip area off of I-95. This is north of Volusia or Brevard County line. It's like 4.5 miles north of it. And they actually know who was responsible for the death in the case. So, like I mentioned, they actually know who actually committed this homicide. That is the serial killer, Gerald Stano. He confessed to the murder, and he stated that he met a woman on Main Street in 1978 or 1979. He said that he then manually choked her to death and took her to a wooded area. Years forward, he remembered the slogan on her shirt, and on the shirt it said, "Do it in the dirt." This apparently was a slogan for a motorcycle manufacturer. There wasn't any charges filed in the case of the murder of this Jane Doe because he had a plea agreement already in place. He did kill a lot of people. In total, he killed 41 women. They were mostly in Jersey or in Florida, and he was executed by the state of Florida in 1998. Gerald Stano is actually not his name. His name is Paul Zeininger, and he was his death penalty was electrocution, and that happened on March 23rd of 1998. So it's kind of fitting that she was actually identified in March of this year, and he died in March of 1998. It's very, very poetic, if you will. So, like I mentioned, he admitted to 41. So he claimed 41. They suspect him of up to 88 murders, but he's only confirmed in 23 murders. He was convicted of 9 counts, and he got death for one of them plus 8 life sentences. So there would have been no way for him to get out of jail, even if he wanted to. Yeah, even if he wanted to, there would have been no way. If he got a stay of execution, there literally would have been no way. His crimes lasted from 1969 to 1980, and he was apprehended in 1980, which is what stopped his crimes. I might do a video on him in the future. He's very intriguing man. So Pamela Wittman was actually from Daytona Beach, or she lived in Daytona Beach briefly when she was in early childhood. Then they moved to Martinsville, Indiana, and it's after like the bulk of her childhood. That's when she moved back to Daytona Beach, and she was last known to be living there in 1979, which is when she disappeared. And like I mentioned before, that Eugene Stano, or Gerald Eugene Stano, confessed to her murder, and that he had met her between 1978 or 1979, and repeatedly said that she was a sex worker. Now, like I mentioned, that her cause of death is stabbing and strangulation, so we know that he choked her to death and then brought her to the woods, which is probably where he then stabbed her. But due to updates in forensics, this is where GHD comes in handy. So there was a fund, which is the Dean and Tina Lynn Klaus Memorial Fund. Basically, what happened is that what they did is they took the DNA that was extracted from a small piece of bone, and they ended up doing forensic genetics. A big thing about this case, too, when they were obviously unanswered questions when it comes to Pam Wittman before they identified this Jane Doe, this Daytona Beach Jane Doe from 1980, is a lot of people would recall her from, like, people in Indiana that knew her would recall her as being a beautiful person. She made people laugh. She had a big heart. She had a voice that was made for singing. She sounded like an angel, things like that. And they then would talk about how she returned to Daytona Beach, and this was a very difficult time in her life when she was an adult. And obviously, this is when she would cross paths with this man. And she was actually one of 2 unidentified victims of his. I've mentioned this before, especially when it comes to the redheaded killer, or the redhead murders, or any unidentified cases. Serial killers grab those who will not be missed, especially those that move to a new area that don't know a lot of people, and they're in a bad part of their life. Serial killers will pinpoint these people. They'll follow them, or even if they're like in the moment killers, spree killers that strike in the moment, they'll see them, notice something's off about them, and they will fit their profile of what they want, and then they'll grab them. There is clear indicators with certain people when it comes to that, of victims that are unidentified or that go unidentified for a while because they lose contact with family. Their family doesn't know what happened to them. They have a bad connection with them, or something happened in their life, or they have no living relatives that makes it so that there is no justice for their case. And a lot of the times they go unidentified for years. I mean, she was found in 1980. It is currently 2024, so it's been a long time. It's been 44 years. And it took 44 years for her to be identified. She was very young when she died. She was 25, born back in 1954. And yeah, she was a very young victim who just lost her way in life. And there's a lot of cases like this where you just think about what happened in their life to make it so bad. It's something that nobody will ever fully understand. unless you're in that mindset or in that perspective of life. That is today's true crime case and identification that I wanted to talk about. I think I'm going to do a video on Gerald Stano because he has now piqued my interest. There's a lot of serial killers that pique my interest, but what are your thoughts? Leave it in a comment down below. I would love to know, and I'll see you in my next one.